Joe, what are you doing? You're not making the situation any better with this video. You're only stirring up the issue even more. You've made assumptions that was not completely factual in your last video. It's only a fraction to the low pre-order sales. Plus, if you did more research last time on the problem, it's not simply because there's a woman in the cover art. Not only that, there were some people in your comment section who were not toxic explaining to you that what you said was not the case. Take the L, my dude. No disrespect. This is a comment that I replied to when Angry Joe made his response video.
Oh, fuck, I had a video made on me. Oh, fuck. Oh, no, Angry Strawman Joe misrepresents fans. Fuck. I brought up fucking social justice warriors versus anti-social justice warriors. And because I provided a different fucking idea that maybe the pre-orders are a little weak, not because of the fact that there are women in it and it's historically inaccurate, but maybe it's because it's in this particular time and it's in this particular this. And I tried some other things because...
Basically, what he's getting at is this video last time. The problem with that is... it says here, with the PC Games article, analyst group Cohen describes pre-orders as weak, and are especially concerned that the game may be this year's Titanfall, a great game that was practically ignored because it was sandwiched between two sales behemoths. The irony of that is that back in 2016, when Titanfall was released, Titanfall 2 I should say, Battlefield 1 was one of those games. And the fact that you completely miss this error, you don't research this. You don't take the time to actually fully research this. You say you do, but I don't even know if you know the true fact. The reality is, the pre-orders is not because of weak sales, because it's sandwiched between two games. If that was the case, then it would without this controversy, it would have taken third place. And the reason for this video, and your response to the last one?
And it sucks to watch this video because they're celebrating. They are celebrating the destruction and the lower sales of the Battlefield 5 franchise due to those goddamn liberals and those goddamn social warriors putting women in Battlefield. The reason why, to them, that Battlefield 5 is having lower pre-orders is because there are women on the box, there are women featured prominently in the trailers, and there are women in multiplayer. And they're not going to spend a goddamn dime of their $60 on women being in World War II because that insults their great-grandfather who fought in World War II. No women!
And you can see why people say that what you said is a straw man. If you really look at this, the reality of it, it's not the case. And what you provided...
well, back in June, that is so recent. They said they paid him a $20 million bonus partly for the purpose of supporting a longer-term retention of this guy. And he said, no, peace out. You know, I'm taking the money and I'm leaving. Is he going to go make more money somewhere else? That's a possibility. Nobody knows what's next for him or what.
And if we look at that date, around June, this was before... this is not it. The live EA press conference. This is just the trailer. But if we also look at this article, this was posted in June the 13th, 2 months ago. If you read this article, which you did in your response video, I might add, and I'm assuming you read the whole thing, The fact that he says that people who are uneducated don't understand that this is a plausible scenario, and he added before he used his daughter. He used the my daughter is a female and she wants to play as a female with defense with the Fortnite skins is totally inaccurate. Not only that, he ends it all up with you either buy the game or don't. You can guess why he has to leave. If he's going to leave earlier, then he's going to leave now, because at this point, players will probably want his head. And again, another reason isn't because they have women in it. If you actually look at these trailers, just look at the trailers, bro. You also said that it was historic. Well, I'll get to that point. Look at this trailer. You have a Celt. You have some dude that looks like a Celt. The Celts don't exist in this time period. You have a female with a prosthetic arm. That you can't really do anything if you had a prosthetic arm. It essentially made you a bit useless. Actually, not a bit, a lot useless. You can fight. Top it all up, you have a British soldier who has a Spetsnaz beret, I'm assuming, and a goddamn katana firing at a crowd or running out the window.
Hello, old friend.
Yeah, fuck!
And it goes back to
On your feet.
this part where she shows tremendous dexterity on holding that gun with her prosthetic arm. That is unfounded and ridiculous. And it gets even more ridiculous as soon as you hit the end of the trailer. As soon as this guy was choking the player character,
Fuck it!
you see this chick literally beat a person to death with a cricket bat with the same prosthetic arm. So no, Joe, it's not because of people don't like the... And you said this before, you said this as well. Like, it's the historical accuracy part. But yeah, basically his reasoning is because of poor sales. And I explained this earlier. That's not the case because Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1 was released at the same time. EA didn't have any faith in Titanfall 2. They had to push their promotion for Battlefield 1 instead. And, like it or not, Joe, like it or not, the reason why these sales are doing poorly is because of their bullshit. Also, hear what these people have to say. Hear what these people are saying about their latest Battlefield in the EA conference.
And so many brilliant remixes of a reveal trailer, World War. So today, we'll show you more gameplay reveal trailer. But there's also been lots and lots of questions from the community. And we've heard you want to see more gameplay innovations. You want to know how customization actually works. And you want to know more about our take on the Second World War. So today, we'll show you more gameplay and why this is the deepest and most immersive battlefield yet.
They said that they want to show people their take on World War II, and they want on how they're making this the most deepest and immersive take Battlefield yet. That shit people saw in the trailer. This is not immersive. This is not immersive. This is not immersive. None of anything in this trailer was not bloody immersive. And look, people disliked it. And this is why you're getting backlash, Joe. Like all I can say is that some of these comments, there are some good comments here that actually explains to you why that's not the case. Hell, there are comments here right now. Aside from mine, this guy, Slice Shooter, is specifying his take. A lot of these, and here's another one. And here's another one. I don't think... A lot of these are not troll comments. A lot of them that are troll comments are just... Yeah, they're troll comments, but most of them are not actually long-winded content, sentences like my own, even though theirs is longer, explaining to you why your video came out as straw man. And this is the problem with you, Joe. This is the problem. Whenever you try to make a video like this with an opinion, you tend to over-exaggerate your shit. You don't think, you don't stop and listen. And apparently I'm hearing you deleting comments. Probably you have some kind of auto-delete. But if I look down in these comments, like, there's a comment. I remember seeing a comment by It's a Gundam. A comment that he specified in one of the parts.
Like Gundam, I watch his videos, I like his stuff, and he left a comment too. I didn't see it there, but it got removed too, and it was like...
Apparently he has a spam filter.
I was too uneducated to place my pre-order. I laughed at it. I thought it was funny. But I looked up the quote again, and, you know...
And he finds the quote later, which he should have done in the first place. I get it. You're not a mind reader, Joe. I didn't get it. But if you're going to do journalism, you have to look at where this shit started. Yes, you could start from the Battlefront thing, but I would doubt that people would be turned away for Battlefield 5 after the Battlefront debacle. Because people are gullible like that, no offense. But like it or not, Joe,
a lot of the
this is the contributing factor. This is the huge factor. The Broketober thing that you were specifying is only a small factor, and you didn't even get that correctly. You want to know who did get it correctly? Yongye.
Major upcoming release. What I do understand, however, is the criticism against all the absurd elements that completely break the setting suspension of disbelief, much of which is highlighted in Battlefield 5's very first trailer. For example, my issue with this female soldier here really has nothing to do with her gender, and more to do with the fact that she's got a freaking prosthetic hook for one of her arms and she's in the front lines. And then we later see her using a spiked cricket bat to kill an enemy combatant. Or how about this one guy who for some reason has got a fucking katana strapped on his back? These are all things that understandably made a lot of people do a double take and go, wait, what? And just the general vibe many got from the trailer was that it's as if Michael Bay directed a whimsical World War II sequence, and it left a sour taste in the mouths of many who hoped for a more grounded take on this seminal era.
That's all it is. If Yongye was able to backtrack the source of why this issue is happening, why couldn't you? Not only that, as soon as you have a thumbnail like this, it doesn't bode well, because you're making the assumption that that's what your video is going to be. It's not at all clickbait, but it sets a bad tone for your audience. And this is what I'm saying. You gotta think, Joe. You gotta think more before you do shit like this. You got shit from the Kingdom Hearts community just because you didn't want to replay the first few games, and you stated that you didn't have time. Apparently, you did it again. Not the community, likewise, but you made a fool of yourself during the beginning era, the beginning times when you were trying to interview Jeff Keighley. Now you're sitting next side to side with Jeff Keighley, figuratively speaking. Then you did it twice with the Trump election and your little rant to the community. You don't think, you just do. That is not a good journalist. And you say you are a journalist. Think like one. If Young Ye can do a better job at looking at this stuff, and hell, let me see if I can find.
Gameplay standpoint, there is Cohen says Battlefield 1, which launched on October 28th, 2016, smack between Battlefield 1, which launched a week earlier on October 21st, and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which launched a week after on November 4th.
It's not because of Broketober, Joe. Titanfall 2 didn't sell badly because of Broketober. It was because EA didn't have faith in their product. They decided to push Battlefield 1 instead, bring up more advertising for that game instead of the release from Respawn. Comparatively speaking, the irony is, now that they don't have a set 2 releases at the same day,
and Red Dead Redemption 2.
Now you've got Call of Duty, which is releasing at the 12th, and now it's been stated that October 19th is when Battlefield 5 is going to release. Now, if this controversy wasn't a thing, I wouldn't be surprised if this game takes third place, regardless of the Battlefront 2 thing. And like I said, and I already repeated myself there, but the fact that this was 5th, I remember reading that this game was 5th in the pre-order sales, is staggering. All I can wrap this up with this thing is basically, think before you do shit like this. As a matter of fact, I have a way to wrap this up. Let's make a display capture real quick. Let's read some pictures. And this is from your own community that I managed to Snapchat. We're gonna read a few. Hey Joe, if you base a game on World War II, you better stick with the historical truth. The issue is not with females per se, but their presence and portrait in World War II in Battlefield 5. This is so hard to understand? Women with prosthetic limbs and pink hair haven't fought in the front line during World War II. As a matter of fact, very few females ever fought, besides some Russian snipers, most of which didn't achieve any significant number of kills anyway. So what we see here is World War II, where at this point you can add a black Jewish Nazis and spaceships, and that would not make a difference. And I remember controversy was a thing with Call of Duty as well. You know what they said, go get woke, go broke? Edit. This was shown recently. Many companies have been that think that being progressive and politically correct instead of have interesting stories, good gameplay, and quality on their games is a cheaper, easier way to get money, cause otherwise you're a racist, bigot, sexist. I know, I'm butchering these quotes badly. Worse, like Hitler, And if the recent Doom trailer, Japanese games, except DOA, I don't know why that should be the exception. Unless he's talking about the boob thing. DC Comics is that fun and interesting stories and games sell way more than this political agenda. Just look at Star Wars, Ghostbusters, DOA, Marvel Comics, and more. I'm sorry, Joe, that your favorite franchise has been torn apart. I truly am. But if we gamers want better quality and fun of Western companies, we must speak with our wallets and reject all this political agenda spewed from hypocrites by extending people like Corporate Commander. And another one. The problem isn't that it has female characters. Some of my favorite game franchises like Tomb Raider, Resident Evil have female protagonists, and sometimes where it is a choice I choose the female. The problem is they first build this as historically accurate, then the devs explain some lame story about misleading his daughter because he doesn't want to make her sad. Women aren't getting their guts blown out and limbs torn off in the front lines during World War II. Yeah, that's another story. Then they show us this over-the-top trailer of a female soldier slow-mo diving out a window while tanks bust through a wall at 90 miles per hour. At 90 miles per hour, where she lands on the back of a motorcycle while sniping zombies with a bolt-action rifle. She operates flawlessly with a hook and forehand, and let's face it, it could have been over the top where it was over the top if it were some non-amputee man. When the fans called them out for claiming this to be historically accurate, and again, they do state that. They basically say, fuck off, you right-wing bigot. And you get the idea. They had not made these ridiculous claims, then nobody would have a problem. Would have had a problem. They would have said, hey, it's just an over-the-top action game, and left it at that. But they didn't. I think there was one comment. This was the one. Joe, this shit is gonna keep happening if you keep responding and addressing it. And that's kind of what I said in my comment I left. It's a cycle, but this is a bit more better. It's a cycle. It has been repeating for a while. I used to be a really big fan. I still am to a point. The top 10 lists in January was a little tradition of mine to enjoy after Christmas, and I look forward to enjoying them every year. My gripe started when you deleted a comment posted by Rags, another YouTuber that I enjoy, over a similar topic to this one. Did he delete a comment from him? I'm not sure. I didn't see him. I know that there was a Gundam comment, and that was gone. Apparently he accidentally deleted it. But I'm sidetracking. Come to think of it, I think it was on your Battlefield 1 video addressing basically the same topic. Just for the first game's controversy. For full discourse, I'm a trans woman. I'm not on board with these changes. Back when FPSs were still young, Medal of Honor and Call of Duty had to fight super hard to be ultra respectful. To even get the go-ahead to make these games, they did out of backlash from some people. Especially veterans. These games built their reputation on being faithful and fairly respectful representations of World War II. They had to simply ship out the product, but now, clearly, such obstacles are far in the past. No one cares that the character is female in her own right. Bayonetta, Hellblade, Nier Automata, Metroid, Last of Us, Tomb Raider, Witcher, those social justice people would complain about Bayonetta, Nier, possibly maybe in Metroid, but mostly The Witcher. Just a few franchises off the top of my head. with strong female leads. Characters in them, all wildly successful across different genres. They care about the character being female in the context of the story and time period being presented to them. It is obvious discrepancies herein. It is not a sexism issue, it is a creative and narrative issue. If you want females in multiplayer, I mean, it's still bullshit historically, but at least you have some defensible ground to stand on since it's got nothing to do with the narrative. But a British female sniper with one arm in the front lines? Come on. The same social justice shitstorm happened around Witcher 3, and I specified that. When SJWs bitched out that there weren't any black people in the game, despite Witcher's game world being modeled after 13th century Poland, and set in a similar setting. It didn't make sense in The Witcher 3. And the same goes for Battlefield 5. I love you, Joe, but come on, you're making this too easy for them. Again, this is what I've been saying. This is what I've kind of been saying. Just because you're going to make videos like this doesn't mean you're going to quell the storm. And lastly, here's Sly Shooter. That's where you're wrong, Joe. This isn't a small portion, more like half the Battlefield player base, judging from the main trailer and overall reactions. You have to admit that DICE's reaction to the negative feedback was a PR disaster, and they should have addressed the concerns from those who thought the cyberpunk World War II style of dudes with mohawks and katanas and girls with cricket bats and blue paints for a game that is supposedly going for the historical World War II game. Instead, DICE decided to call that small portion sexist and racist and accept it or don't buy it. Karma's a bitch, Joe, and this game is getting exactly what it deserves. I'm a longtime fan of you, Joe, and support you and your content whether I agree with you or not. No one deserves hate for having a different opinion. However, I think the reason you're getting criticism is because you don't think that SJW pandering and political correctness is necessarily a bad thing for a game, even if it's a historical event like World War II. You are obviously in the "it's just a game, who cares" crowd, and that's totally fine. However, for people like myself, I wouldn't spend $60 on this trash because I like World War II games, and this game shits all over the historical event. I definitely would have preferred the classic, traditional Omaha Beach Battlefield 1942 vibe with accurate World War II tones instead of the weird alternate World War II they got going on. And as soon as people started replying to that, this one person, dude, you sound like an idiot. Stop letting political statements and historical accuracy ruin otherwise good games. This is what's wrong with humanity. I am not at all liberal, but I do believe at the end we're all humans and should help each other instead of bashing each other because something has Wamen. I agree with most right-leaning decisions, but I'm annoyed that my escape from life has such to do with stupid shit like this from the real world. Just play the game and have fun with that story instead of comparing it to logistical standards in World War II. This is an alternative time. And this is where this guy says something dumb, because as soon as he made that, here we go. We were told that they would create an authentic World War II game, which they did. They did not do this sweetly, and we the consumers have every right to be angry, which is true. That's your amendment. That's your amendment right. If you want women or blacks in World War II games, they are authentic ways to do so. For example, not every unit was segregated. There were very few integrated groups, but they did exist. The Native Americans, the female workers, the blacks. There's a Gundam video that I watched, he was explaining the history. Hell, it was so bad that even the biggest corporations decided to profit from the war because they don't like black people serving in factories. There were black units as well. And for women, you could do resistance fighters or go on the Eastern Front for the very few women units that saw combat, but those that did had a high rate of desertion and by extension executions, which is true, which I forgot to mention. If you were a female serving the front lines and if you get caught by the enemy team, you're a slave. You're their sexual pig. That is one reason no women will want to go to war. They don't want to be like that. They also had a high rate of suicide. You could do the Soviet Air Force that had women units. You could do the US Merchant Coast Guard on board a ship being attacked by a German U-boat. You could do the entire game where you are a female spy and you need to use your assets or some form of network to get intel for the resistance or the allies. Maybe you're a female German spy and you're hunting the resistance. There are plenty of authentic ways to bring blacks and women into World War II games, but there is no need to shove them in there. And before someone says, who cares, it's fun. I read that wrong, but you get the idea. History is the lore of the world. What if I made a Star Wars game, but instead of imps and bounty hunters, you're fighting the Shanghai from the Sangheil from Halo and have it go and have them go wart all over the place, or bought into the Ayanami who are outslaving the Hertz. Lore is the history of the world, and lore should be respected. That, Joe, is why people are angry. Not because of Wamen, because these people disrespected the lore of World War II. Take the L. As I said in this comment, take the L. Just take the L, go, and go. Just move on. You're not gonna win. I'm sorry. And if this video was a bit scatterbrained, I apologize. I'll see you when I see you. Oh yeah, and another thing. I forgot to read this comment as well. This one was also a good one. I am not just a woman. I'm also disabled. I hate the addition of disabled women in Battlefield 5. I think it is a complete and utter cancer, and it very well might be the first Battlefield I don't buy with full DLC. Since including Battlefield 2, adding women is terrible and solely motivated by politics. Adding disabled people / cyborgs arguably even worse. Nobody in those categories in the real world remotely cares about representation. I don't play games to play as myself. In fact, I adore Witcher for the ability to play as a bold, arrogant, strong, powerful, badass character. Hell, I play computer games to escape the otherwise constant reminders of my condition and real-world limitations. Having disabled near cyborgs forced into a World War II game isn't really what I want. Furthermore, Battlefield 5 is a game in which you don't really play a character anyway. Instead, you play a competition. So the argument of representation and doesn't really fit well. I guess that's a typo. Seeing the disabled is a complete break from reality for me, And unlike the other breaks from reality, the women disabled angle is done at the detriment of the game, the people they claim to be helping, and is only done to appease someone who doesn't fit into the category that is, or is a small minority. Basically, even if it didn't determine the game at all, it would still affect me negatively as a disabled woman. It is only done for political gain by malicious, insidious activist forces. And that is absolutely terrible reason to actively determine the game. I am utterly delighted that the game is failing. Hopefully it'll serve as a a lesson to EA and every other gaming developer in how not to treat the customers. I apologize for my reading. This is the first time. Actually, I rarely get to use my voice, so I'm gonna end it with this. Honestly, just shut up and make reviews.